Never photograph in the middle of the day, they say. Well, I beg to differ. Well, it's true that coming out in the middle of the day on most occasions is not the perfect time for photography, especially landscape photography. But there are times when it's perfectly acceptable, and sometimes quite good too. As we can see here, there's a lot of cloud around, but it's not completely cloudy and overcast. There are some blue patchy areas, and the cloud is fairly broken, which means that light can break through that cloud, and as you can see, is lighting some of the mountain peaks that are actually showing through that thick bank of cloud over on the mountain. These are the Kamnik Alps that we're looking at now. And when that light breaks through, it often rakes across the foreground too. So here, for example, you can see that there's some nice light falling on those mountain peaks over there, the eastern side of the Kamnik Alps. And down below we've got that lovely large area filled with the church in the middle. That's the village of Hraše, as I explained before in my previous vlog. And when the light falls and rakes across that field and lights that church and those mountain peaks, there's potentially a great shot there. And I'm hopefully going to get it today. So I'm here up on the old castle of Smlednik once again. I took you up here on one of my previous vlogs. If you haven't seen that, then check out that vlog. I'll put a link to it up here. But it's always good to revisit locations, because every time you come up here you get different conditions. First time I was up here, I got some beautiful sunset light, golden hour light with some lovely clouds, and it was nice and clear. Second time I come up, it was a bit hazier with a bit more haze and mist down below, and today we've got a nice cloudy day instead. That patch of light on the mountain side right above the church is Krvavet ski resort. I've opted today for the 24-105 lens rather than the zoom lens, because I've got then the potential to pull back and get some of that larger area down below if the light looks good. At the moment I'm right out at 100mm, and I've got a similar composition to what I had before framed, but if need be I can pull back. It's a bit windy up here today, so for that reason I've got the ISO set to 400, so I can, and my aperture to f11, so I can get a good fast shutter speed. So I've got 1/200th of a second here, just to avoid any potential vibration from the wind. Well, I think I might have one potentially good shot from this. Let's go into the computer and take a look. So here we are. These are the photos from my little shoot. I wasn't there for very long really. It was windy, cold, the family were getting a bit impatient, so, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. There was some movement in the clouds and the light was changing a bit, but it remained relatively thick and cloudy over the mountains itself. So from all of these photos, this was the composition I decided on and I set myself on, and, I've pretty much narrowed it down to these two photos here. And I think the reason being I like, this is Kavava ski resort, so there's a nice bit of light falling down here, lighting that ski slope actually. And a little bit here on the mountains and over here. And down here we've got light on the foreground nicely, light on the church itself. And what's good is that these trees here are in the shade, so it's allowing the church to stand out a bit, but we've got a nice little bit of light across the treetops here. So I think I'm going to choose this one and process this. Now, as you saw here, it looked like a full image, but actually I used a 16:9 aspect ratio in camera, so it's automatically opened like this. The problem that I had compositionally with this image was that it was quite tight, and I knew I had these distracting objects down here which I didn't want in my image, but if I zoomed in closer I would cut off the mountains or I would cut off these trees. Really, I wanted these trees here, the church, and I wanted these mountain tops all in the frame. If I moved to the left a bit, then there were other distracting objects here. So I settled on this composition knowing that I would very likely do some cropping in post-processing. So the way that we do that, first of all, I'm going to check that my church is not quite straight. Some of the objects here are not quite straight. Sometimes, even though you have the spirit level and everything kind of looks straight, you often get into, when you get into the computer, you see that something's slightly off. So it's always good to leave a bit of room actually in your composition for some rotating and cropping. So the way that we do that is we come down here to geometry, and you can select the grid to give you some guidelines, zoom into an object like this, and then rotate. So if I rotate this to about 1, that seems to have straightened that up nicely. Let's double check our trees down here. The trees are nice. So this is nice. This is all rotated nicely. Now of course I've got these ugly areas here, and I am going to do some cropping, but what I can also do is scale it. So I can take it up maybe 1, 2 here, or 3 here. There you go. Now that's scaled that nicely. Now I come to my crop tool here. Now here I can do this, for example, but then now you can see that even though when I'm cropping in, I'm losing a lot of my sky. This is another problem I have, which I don't want. I want to keep, there isn't that much sky, I know, and there's not a super lot of it, but there are some nice little clouds, and when we do some work in a minute, we'll bring those clouds out. So I don't want that crop to be too close to the mountains, because then everything's too close to the edge. And another problem you have with that, if you want to sell this as wall art, you have to consider the fact that someone may put it in a frame, and you may lose a bit of the edge in a frame. So if your composition is too tight to the edges, then it won't frame nicely. Same thing also for canvas wraps. Someone might want to wrap the edges around the side, and if there's not enough sky, there's not enough to wrap there. So it's always good to leave that, but compositionally too, it also looks much better if you've cut your sky off completely and you've just got the mountain tops. It looks ugly. We want to show a bit of sky. So the other option I've got down here is to change my aspect ratio from 16:9 to 16:10, just a tiny touch. Now that's cut off all of this nicely. It's cut off a bit here, which is not so interesting. I can move it around, so I can move this to the edge if I want. I can move this back, but I'm going to put it here so it gives me enough of this road. There's a nice little leading line to the trees here, and then a leading line off and out. The church, if you want to look at the rule of thirds, this little building is on a third, and the church is down here in this little section here. But although the rule of thirds are important, what I look at really is I want to look at the image itself. So does the image itself look good? Are all the elements placed nicely? Are there some leading lines? Everything's in its place and it looks good. I like this. This crop and this composition I think is perfect. So now I'm set on my composition. I'll come back up to my basic tools here, and now I'll do some editing. Now I got Adobe Landscape or Adobe Vivid or other options. Sometimes I find that the landscape is a bit too off. It worked quite well in the last image, but here I think these colors are a little bit off. I don't like it, so I'm going to leave it on Vivid for now, and I'm just going to have a play with things myself. So here it's a misty, it was a, well, I wouldn't say it was misty, it was quite hazy. There's a lot of humidity there, so there's the contrast is quite low, and we got a big gap here on the shadow ends, so we can take the blacks down. That's the first thing I'm going to do here. Take the blacks down, not too much. I'm going to take it down to here for now, because other things I do will also affect it. So if I take that down to here for now, I'm going to bring my whites up. Let's whiten the church itself and the snow on the top. Now it's quite overexposed here, of course, because there was a lot of light falling on those snowy parts. So we can pull back the highlights here. Bring the highlights down a touch. Yeah, there was a lot of haze and moisture, so we can bring the dehaze up a bit. Some clarity overall. And maybe if we zoom in close, a touch of texture, maybe. A little bit of texture on here or on the mountain tops. Sometimes the texture button adds a touch to the mountain tops. Yeah, it wasn't a bright colourful scene and a bright colourful day, so we don't want to overdo it. So maybe just a touch of vibrance here. And now the sky. Let's do a little bit here with the sky to bring it out. I didn't use a grad. There was no need for a grad really, but the grad tool, the graduated filter tool in Adobe Camera Raw, really does some excellent work. So I want to bring out a bit more detail here on this. This is a little burned out still. So now in the new version of Adobe Camera Raw, the grad tool has been moved to the masking tool here. Everything is now here. And you've got some great new features too. So your old linear grad is here, your radial grad, your brush tool are all here. But you've also got these options to select the sky or select a subject. Now I don't want to select the sky because I actually want to do something here with the mountain tops too. So I'm going to work with the linear grad as usual. So if I select that grad and come over here, hold down the shift key and pull grad tool. Now you see I've got this show overlay ticked with a nice bright color. So this is really good because it's indicating to me where the grad overlay is going to appear. So I can clearly move that over those mountain tops that I want to darken down a bit. Once you've done that, you can untick that to reveal this again and then start working. So again, I can pull the highlights tool back a bit on the sky now to bring that back. I can adjust some exposure if I want to. Don't think I will. Maybe just a teeny touch. And great with the thing with this tool is we can even adjust the contrast just in the sky. Everything we do will affect that area above between the red and the bottom bar here. So that looks good. Now I'll come back here to my main tool here and let's see, maybe I can take the blacks down a touch more here. And that's it. I think that's enough for Adobe Camera Raw, so I'm going to open it now into Photoshop and make a few more teeny adjustments to the highlights overall. Now with the highlights tool in Photoshop, now I've really, you can see, I really brought back the detail here in this burned out area on the mountain tops, and now these mountain peaks are really perfect. The detail there is perfect. I've got the detail back in that sky, although it was a hazy, cloudy kind of sky. I've really brought back some of that detail, but it looks natural. It looks natural. That's the key. You know, you don't want to overdo it, that it looks unnatural. Now everything here on those mountaintops looks perfect. That foreground was nicely lit, and so we've brought it out with some texture, with some contrast and color here, and that's perfect. That's perfect. So I'll click OK here. Let's zoom out, see how that looks. I can try a tweak of the curves, maybe just if we pull it down a touch and a touch, just to see. That's brought out a bit more brightness in the sky, so I like that. Just a teeny touch. Less is more, as they say. And that's it. I think that's my image complete. So now I'm going to keyword everything. So I've got a template saved for this already from previous shoots. Now this is the village of Hraše, and this is the Church of St. James. I've shot this before from down below, so I already have a template saved for that, and that template is just fine. So that's all my details there. I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to save this as a TIFF. And I'm going to scan it for dust spots. Now when you zoom in at 100%, now we can see clearly, see? This mountainside has got some nice light on it. Now we can see all the detail there has been pulled back. Perfect. And that's saved. So now that image is ready, I'll convert it to 8 bits, convert the Pro to sRGB, and save my JPEG. As I explained before, I save the JPEGs in sRGB because then I upload them to all the places that I sell and they display better on the internet. If I need to supply a JPEG in Adobe RGB, I can easily make it again from the TIFF. That's why I save both. Save it at 12. And now my image is ready. So now I'll put this image up for sale. I'm not going to put it on my own website. I'm going to put it on my Smlednik website, and I'll put it on my Fine Art America page for sale. And I'll probably put it on social media. So first of all, my Fine Art America page, quite simply you log into your account, you go to your profile page, click upload image or upload multiple images if you've got more than one, and I'll just browse and select that photo here and click upload. Now you see the advantage of putting all that data into your image. It has extracted it immediately and immediately populated the description, keywords, name, title, well, the title field automatically. Artist name and medium, so I think is set up by default on Fine Art America, but it's done everything for me automatically. It saves me so much time. Then I just need to come down here and choose the collections I want to add it to. So I'll add this one to landscapes. General, I usually add it in general, and churches and mountains of Slovenia because there's a church and a mountain there. So I'm going to add it to those 3 galleries or collections in my portfolio. Click submit and it's done. Smlednik, I'll add it to my mountains gallery. That's done. Now, if I view my gallery on site, that should be down the bottom. Oh, there it is. That's now available for sale on SmugMug, and it's also available for sale now if we go to my Fine Art America or my main Pixels artist website. Now, this is the site I direct people to because this is my Fine Art America portfolio cloned here to this site, and anyone who comes here will only see my portfolio, my photos, nobody else's. I put it into landscapes, and there it is. And again, we can click on here, and it's available for sale on Fine Art America. Now, the thing about wall art, one of the things I certainly learned over the years, is that you never know what people are going to buy. As photographers, we are maybe too close to our images sometimes. We always look for perfection. We always look for the wow factor, the great images, and we always think that these are the ones that people are going to buy because these are wow photos. And several years ago, an image like this, I probably would have thought, I won't put that up. No one's going to buy that. It's a nice image, but no one's going to buy it. But now I think differently, because over the years I've already seen what has sold. Images that I put up, you know, where I was thinking twice about putting up for sale, but I put them up in the end, and those images are the ones that have actually sold. And I realized that when people are buying wall art, they're not necessarily, images may be wow, full of color, the dramatic flaming sunsets, they're fantastic to look at. But people don't want to hang them on their wall because they're too dominating in the room. They're often looking for an image that blends into the room, blends with the decor, blends with their furniture. So they're looking maybe sometimes for something a little more subtle, like this. But also, people are looking for something they have an emotional attachment to. Now, an example of this is my most recent sale. This beach hut here at Kingsdown Beach in Kent, England. The buyer actually contacted me and told me that he is buying this for his partner's birthday present. But what's special about this is that his partner's family live in Kingsdown, so she grew up obviously in Kingsdown. And this is the best bit. This beach hut was their beach hut. I shot this image in 2012, and it actually sat on my hard drive for years before I finally got round to processing it and putting it up for sale. Now, in 2012, I wouldn't have put it up for sale. I didn't think that way. But because I think differently now, when I finally got round to processing this image, I put it up for sale for this very reason. And this image has sold because this beach hut belonged to this guy's partner's family. That was their beach hut. And this beach hut, since I photographed it, was actually blown away in a storm. So it's gone. It's no more. So I've actually captured something that belonged to somebody, and this picture has found its way back to the family, and now they have a lovely memory of their beach hut that they used to own. And that is why they bought it. So there's usually an emotional attachment to the image or to the location. People buy images of places they grew up. People come to me and they're looking for images, typically in Slovenia. I've had people come to me living in America, but their father is from Slovenia and he lives in America, and they want to buy a picture of Slovenia as a memento for him of his homeland. I've got people that regularly go on holiday to a location and they love this place and they buy a photo of that. So there's an emotional attachment to it too. So there are various reasons that people buy wall art. So for that reason, if the image is good, it's good quality and it's a good location, then I put it up for sale. I may not put it on my main website, for example, in part of my portfolio, depending if the image is, I don't think is that great, but I will put it up for sale on the pod sites, and I will put it for sale on my SmugMug site. And I will also put this up for sale on Alamy, and I will also put this up on social media. So there you go. That's the image I chose from that little shoot I took, and that's what I have done with those images. So once again, I hope you found this useful. I hope you like this new approach to my vlogs, showing you also how I process the pictures and what I do with them. And if you're first time here, then please subscribe. I'd be very grateful. Check out my other videos. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like, and I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.